Hi there, welcome back to Pretty Much Flawless. Today in this video, we are going to be looking at a cheaper way to wire up Bitcoin miners. Let's get into it. This is a Bitcoin miner. This is also a Bitcoin miner. And this is another Bitcoin miner. And here is more Bitcoin miners. You might be able to guess what these are. Alright, so the point is that they all take this C13 plug here. So these can be a little bit expensive, especially if we're looking at a kind of a special one, like a 240 volt plug on one end and then C13 on the other end. So what we're going to use is the C13's end. So there'll be a link in the description down below where I got these, and you can wire these up, use whatever size of wire you want, and make the wire length whatever size you want too. So let's wire this up. Alright, so here is the C13 plug here. So if we're looking at from the top, the one on the left, that's the neutral, the middle one here, that's the ground, and the one on the right, that's the hot. So in order to get this connector apart, we just need to take out this bolt right here. There's a nut on the other side here. And this just pops apart. This rubber strainer leaf thing that kind of just sits right there. And there's also a wire clamp right here to go to your three terminals here. So you do want to remember that the one on the left right here, this one right here is our neutral. If you look at it, it's the one on the left right here. So that would be our neutral, this would be our ground, and that would be our hot. If we were wiring this up as a 120, if we're wiring up this as 240, it wouldn't matter. You just put your 120 on this one other 120 on this one, and just ground in the middle here. Alright, so what I use to wire these up is waterproof 14.3. So this is pretty much extension cord wire where it's stranded and it's 14 gauge. It's got 3 wires. It's got your green, white, and black. So what I do is I just strip this maybe about 1/2 inch, being very careful not to nick the wires. There we go. Then we have these white paper things that we can just cut off. And make sure you're not cutting the wire, just these paper things. That's good. And then what we can do is we can strip our wires. We'll just take a little tiny bit off. Alright, so this 14.3 doesn't exactly fit with this wire clamp on. It doesn't really fit through this rubber sock either. If you're using a smaller gauge wire, then it would. But since I'm using 14.3s, that's not going to work. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove our wire clamp. Just 2 more bolts here. There we go. And then we'll just unscrew these terminals here. Alright, and then we'll give each of these wires a bit of a twist, just so the strands don't go everywhere. And we want to remember which one our neutral goes to. So our neutral goes to the one on the left here. You can just remember by having it face kind of the arrow side up, and then just seeing which one's on the left. And that's our neutral right there. So the white one would go there. So I'm just going to unscrew and take our screw completely out here, and then I'm going to put our wire in. And then I'm going to put our screw back in again. And we'll do the same thing for the hot or the black wire. Alright, so that's the black and the white done. And now for the green, we're going to have to strip this back a little bit more, just because this terminal is, you can see here, these two screws are a little bit further ahead than the ground here. So we're just going to have to strip a little bit more off the green wire here. Maybe even a bit more than that. And we'll twist that together. And we're actually going to cut a little bit off the end here, just because we have a little bit much. There we go. And we'll do the same thing. We'll just pull this screw all the way out. Alright, so here is what that looks like. So it looks alright. It could be a little bit better, but all the wires are securely underneath these screws here, which is good. And that's good. So now we can put our cap back on. We just put it on like this. Just pop it on. And then what we'll do is we'll take our bolt, just put it through here, and then take our nut and put it on right there. And we'll just tighten that down until it's pretty good. Alright, that's good. So this plug's all wired up. So I didn't put the clamp back in just because this 14.3 is too big and the clamp won't fit over this wire. But the plastic shell does a good job holding this wire, so that's good. So this connector right here, the C13 connectors are only rated for 10 amps. But I'm using 14 gauge wire, which is rated for 15 amps. So you might be wondering why I'm doing that. So I'm using 14 gauge wire. This is going to be connected to a 15 amp breaker. If anything were to go wrong with the plug and it starts drawing more than 10 amps, this wire is rated up for up to 15, which is what the breaker is, and we're not going to have any problems with the wire catching on fire or getting too hot or whatever. Another reason is also the wire getting too hot. When we were doing some experimentation with 18 gauge cords, what happens is after you'd run the miner for a little bit, your 18 gauge cord would get warm, which is not what you want. So I use 14 gauge. It's a little bit bigger, it's oversized, but the wire doesn't get warm, and it works very well. So that's my thoughts. Let me know in the comment section down below what you think. Alright, so then what you do with the other end of this plug is you have a few options. You could wire this right into the breaker panel, or instead of running it directly to a breaker panel, you could wire it up to a plug like this, where you just take it all apart, and then you slide this part over your wire, and you strip your wire and connect your wires to the proper terminal. So black or your hot would go to your brass screw, white or your neutral would go to your silver screw, and green, or your ground, would go to your green screw down here. Alright, so we're here with John. So John, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm John. I'm Daniel's brother. I'm head of mining here at Pretty Much Flawless. And here at Pretty Much Flawless, we mine mostly Bitcoin, but we've been known to mine some other coins as well, depending on what the market's doing.
Okay, so are you worried about the upcoming halving?
The upcoming halving, I'm a little concerned about, just like anybody who had their salary cut in half would be concerned about. But if you look at past Bitcoin halvings, you can see that the halving is normally accompanied by increase in price shortly after. So I'm not too concerned, and I think sometimes after the halving, in the near future, it'll be just as profitable to mine Bitcoin as it is today.
Alright, thank you. Thanks for your time, and we better let you get back to mining.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for watching this video today. Hope you learned something. If you did, please subscribe. That would really help my channel. And I'll see you next time.